Before I get started with tonight's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, I just want to say that this episode is dedicated to the memory of superstar Billy Graham, who unfortunately passed away at the age of 79. Unfortunately, Billy Graham has been suffering a lot of health issues for quite a while now. And just a little bit ago, while AEW Dynamite was on tonight, I got the notification from one of the wrestling news apps I have on my phone that superstar Billy Graham passed away at the age of 79. Was definitely a big part in the history of, pro wrestling, going back to the WWF, I believe, with Vince Sr. Is a WWE Hall of Famer. When in 2004, the night before WrestleMania 20, and I will talk more and remember the career of superstar Billy Graham tomorrow morning on Good Morning Wrestling Fans. But for now, tonight's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic is dedicated to the memory of the legendary superstar Billy Graham. I will take a quick pause to have a moment of silence, and then I will get started with this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, episode 405. After this moment of silence for superstar Billy Graham. Episode 405, I will be talking about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. Also, we'll talk all about the big AEW announcement that was made earlier today during the Warner Brothers Discovery Upfront. All here tonight, right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hello, wrestling fanatics. This is 360 Wrestling Fanatic, episode 405. Thank you, everyone. I am your host, Lance Brock. Right here, as I mentioned in that little preview, I will be talking all about tonight's brand spanking new episode of AEW Dynamite. And I'm going to wait until after the recap of Dynamite to talk about the big news in the world of All Elite Wrestling. It was broke earlier today during the upfront from Warner Brothers Discovery. And then we heard more about it from Tony Khan during tonight's episode of Dynamite, but we'll be talking about that after the recap of Dynamite. And let's get right into it. Tonight's AEW Dynamite. And Dynamite was live from Austin, Texas, from the Moody Center. And we kick things off on Dynamite this week with the AEW TNT champion Wardlow. And he enters the ring. He calls out the man who said he will be challenging him for that TNT championship, Christian Cage, along with Luchasaurus. And at one point, Wardlow dares Christian to spit in his face, and Christian acts like he's about to, but then Wardlow grabs him by the throat, and then he is attacked by Luchasaurus. And it's a 2-on-1 beatdown. And to kind of skip ahead a little bit, I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but later on in the night, we see Wardlow being checked on in the back with Renee Paquette. And then we see Arn Anderson come in the back upset that he wasn't out there. And Wardlow said that was the reason that he did not want Arn out there. And our first in-ring match of the night on Dynamite is tag team action. The AEW International Champion, freshly squeezed, Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin taking on, representing the firm, Lee Moriarty and Big Bill. This one, good match. No international title match this week, but still good showing from OC and Darby Allin. I thought these two actually made a good team together. They get the victory when Darby pins Moriarty. Another man from the Double or Nothing main event is in action. Sammy Guevara, in his home state of Texas, defeats Exodus Prime. We also had the Falls Count Anywhere match tonight. Chris Jericho and Roderick Strong. Remember, Adam Cole is banned from the building, and the Jericho Appreciation Society is also banned from the building. And pay attention to what I said just before I started getting into this match. They, of course, Falls Count Anywhere match. They brawl all over the arena into the stairwell, which was pretty crazy, on this ledge or something that was by the stairs, and in the concourse all the way to the outside, the front entrance of the arena. And Chris Jericho at this time is talking a bunch of trash to Roderick Strong. And then we see behind Chris Jericho, it is none other than Adam Cole, baby, which he is not in the building. And the commentators at this time put over that he was only banned from being in the building, and he attacks Chris Jericho. They go on this, I don't know what you call it, but those one things that buildings have sometimes where there's like some grass and flowers, and I don't know if it's a flower bed, but maybe something like that. And Adam Cole attacks Chris Jericho on that thing. Roderick Strong gets the pin and the win here, defeating Chris Jericho in this Falls Count Anywhere match. And at this time, I know I'm going out of order, kind of going back and forth, bouncing all around. But also, we see the AEW World Tag Team Champions, FTR, and then they are attacked, or not attacked yet, but then we see the team that wants to challenge FTR for those tag team titles, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, along with Sanjay Dutt and Saddam Singh. And at this time we see someone make her way to the ring from the crowd, making her AEW debut. I believe it is none other than Karen Jarrett. She low blows Dax Harwood, which gives Jarrett, Lethal, Dutt, and Singh the advantage. And they have two guitars, and each one has FTR's names on Dax and Cash. And we see guitar shots here to both members of FTR. Jarrett and Lethal lead the AEW World Tag Team Champions, laying them holding the titles. I could be wrong. I'm not sure if this is officially made just yet, but looks like we are going to see that match at Double or Nothing. And now on to our main event of the evening. Not the final segment, but it was the final match of the night. Switchblade Jay White, representing Bullet Club Gold, with Juice Robinson in his corner, takes on Absolute Ricky Starks. And pretty good match here, I thought. And the finish sees Ricky Stark kind of snap and use a steel chair, getting himself disqualified. So the winner of the match, Jay White and Juice Robinson, exit up the ramp, having the last laugh. And then in the final segment, we hear from Don Callis, and he explains, I guess you could say, explain his actions from last week on Dynamite, turning on Kenny Omega, stabbing him in the head with that screwdriver. Someone who has been like family to him. And Don says that Kenny Omega wasn't the victim, pretty much saying he was. And he talked about everything him and Kenny Omega have been through, how Don Callis made Omega vs. Jericho at the Tokyo Dome happen, and talked about when Omega was AEW World Champion at that time, when he was also the Impact World Champion. And he pretty much said that none of that would have happened without him. And then at this time we see Kenny Omega make his way onto the stage and almost down the ramp to the ring, but then he is attacked by the Blackpool Combat Club, Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, John Moxley, and the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Earlier in the night, I know haven't mentioned this yet in the recap, but we see the Young Bucks arrive to the arena, and they were attacked by the BCC. But at this time, the Young Bucks make their way out with a bunch of weapons. They got garbage cans, kendo sticks, 2x4s, it looks like, in there, and they are still outnumbered at this time. But then we hear some familiar music, and it is the return of someone who was taken out by the Blackpool Combat Club. It is Hangman Adam Page, a former tag team champion partner of Kenny Omega. And then Kenny Omega hands Hangman the broom wrapped in barbed wire, and the Elite in full force makes their way down to the ramp, and they brawl with the BCC. They are in the ring, standing tall as the Blackpool Combat Club exits, and Hangman gets on the mic, and we find out that at Double or Nothing, May 28th, it will be the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Adam Page, in not just any other 8-man tag team match, but it will be Anarchy in the Arena at Double or Nothing, which, I'm sure you have seen an Anarchy in Arena match before, but just in case you haven't, it is anything goes, falls count anywhere, no DQs, pretty much brawling all over the arena, lots of weapons, it can get pretty crazy, and it will be BCC versus the Elite. So that was tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, and I thought it was a good episode. Would I say real great? Maybe not real great, but definitely was a good episode. But I wouldn't really say it was one of the best Dynamites ever. Still good episode though. And I just want to, before I get to the big news of the day, mention a sign that I saw in the crowd. I forgot to mention this when I talked about last week's Dynamite, which was right here in Detroit, Michigan, my hometown. And I saw someone have a sign with a bottle on it that said, "It's pop, not soda," which is true. But tonight in Austin, Texas, on Dynamite, there was a fan that I guess they were being funny or something, kind of respond to that, and they made a sign that said the opposite. It's soda, not pop. For some reason, there are some other states and maybe other countries, they don't call it pop like we do here in Michigan, which is the correct way, the correct thing to call it. But like I said, if you're listening here in Michigan, I'm sure you agree with me. But I know most places, for some reason, just mainly call it soda. But here in Michigan, it is pop, definitely. So now on to the big news of the day, and it was broke during the upfront for Warner Brothers Discovery. It's been talked about for a little while now, and it is now official. June 18th, it is going to be the premiere of AEW Collision, live 8 p.m. Eastern on TNT, which it is also being rumored about an AEW brand split and the return of CM Punk. Although that is all the talk and the speculation all over the internet, all over the wrestling news sites, that has not been officially announced just yet, though. There wasn't any mention of CM Punk on Dynamite tonight at all, or any AEW social media. But people speculate that we will see the return of CM Punk to AEW. And Tony Khan on Dynamite tonight, he said that this summer we will see episodes of Saturday Collision take place in Canada, that tour that's going to be there over the summer. And he said he will soon announce the location of the first episode of Saturday Collision, taking place on June 18th, which has been talked about and speculated as being from Chicago at the United Center, which is the main reason why people have started to think with CM Punk returning there. And since that is where CM Punk made his AEW debut, that very arena, on, I believe, the second episode of AEW Rampage, but that remains to be seen. If we actually do see the return to AEW television of CM Punk. I even saw the other day, I don't remember what website it is on, I apologize, but I saw something, this show of Collision also being titled The Second Coming, which has to do with the return of Punk. But who knows if that's going to happen or not. And the only thing announced today was Saturday Collision and when that will premiere. There's also been some talk going around lately about maybe AEW having a streaming deal with HBO Max, which actually in just maybe a few days or so, I think, will be rebranded as just Max. But don't know if that's going to happen just yet. I would say it's not really out of the question just yet. I would say there's still time for that to be announced, especially if All In is going to be a streaming special. They could be waiting until it gets closer to All In to announce it. So I wouldn't rule that out just yet. And at this time, I just want to talk about my thoughts and opinions on the new show, Saturday Collision. I'm sure it'll be a great show. I'm okay with the name, Saturday Collision, and I am definitely a big fan of the logo. Kind of like, I don't know if I would really say a tribute, but kind of a callback to the WCW Monday Nitro logo. The same colors anyway. Has the TNT logo on the bottom of it as well. So, big fan of the logo. And like I said, I'm sure it'll be a good show, especially if they do have CM Punk as part of the roster on that show. And I seen reports of Miro being, and speaking of Miro, who returned last week on Dynamite, he's featured on the poster, the promotional poster for Saturday Collision and Thunder Rosa, I believe. And I even read something earlier today about Andrade being a part of this show as well. But like I said, but I'm sure it'll be a great show. A lot of great wrestling each week. But here is my problem with the show. I don't think Saturday night is a good night to have a live weekly pro wrestling show, especially at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's why I said, and I didn't actually think it was going to happen, but I have talked about how I would like to have seen it air at 6:05 on TBS, just because of the history of pro wrestling being in that time slot on TBS. Have a lot of great memories of watching WCW Saturday night, 6:05 every Saturday night, TBS. Usually, a lot of times, either before a Braves game or after a Braves game. And I didn't really expect that to happen, but instead, Saturday Collision will be airing Saturday nights, 8 p.m. on TNT. And one of the main reasons I don't really think this is a good idea, I know it's not every week, but lately WWE has been running premium live events on Saturday nights, which I don't know if it's really what AEW wants to go head to head with the WWE PLEs. I know it's different. AEW being on TNT, but and WWE here in the United States anyway, streaming on Peacock. But still, I don't know if it's really a good idea for AEW to go head to head with WWE unless they, for those weeks where there is a WWE Premium Live event, they stack that show with a loaded card and a lot of great matches, really hype it. But even then though, I don't know. But that's just my opinion. And also, one thing I think that this is gonna hurt is independent promotions, which before, because other than when there is a AEW pay-per-view, the AEW talent, or some of them anyway, usually works on indie shows, and if they have to be there for another TV show on Saturday nights, that's going to take a lot of them away from that would normally have indie bookings on the weekend. And indie promotions, of course, they love having AEW talent on the show so they can put them front and center on their flyers and show the AEW logo featuring AEW star so-and-so, just like they usually do with Impact when they have somebody from Impact Wrestling on their card. But that's not really one of the main reasons, though. Also, another reason is, now me, and I'm sure other wrestling nerds out there, are gonna stay home every week and watch the show just like as if it was any wrestling show that would. If wrestling is on, I'm definitely going to watch it. I'm sure, like I said, there are probably other wrestling fanatics, just like the name of the show, 360 Wrestling Fanatic, and other pro wrestling nerds out there that are just like me, that really have no problem with watching pro wrestling on Saturday night. But for some reason, there are some people, especially a lot of those casual fans, that don't really watch all wrestling, that they mainly just follow the big companies. Some people only watch WWE, those casual fans. And I doubt that they probably stay home on a Saturday night and watch pro wrestling. For some reason, they rather go out, do things, and spend time with friends, things like that for some reason. But like I said, I will definitely be watching Saturday Collision every Saturday night. But I have not yet figured out what I'm going to do. As I mentioned, on those Saturday nights when there's also a WWE Premium Live event. And also, one thing, this might kind of hurt, maybe not, but the indie promotions that often have shows on the weekend, like GCW and others, Impact Wrestling as well, and some of the smaller indies that have shows on Fight TV. I don't know if that would hurt them or not. But it is now official. AEW Saturday Collision debuting June 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNT. And that's all for tonight's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, anything you want to say, you can say in the comment section right here on Spreaker, or if the website or the app you are listening to on has a comment section, you can leave them right there. Hope to have more new episodes of 360 Wrestling Fanatic coming at us just soon. But remember, tomorrow morning, the Thursday episode of GMWF, I will talk more about the career of superstar Billy Graham. That is tomorrow morning on GMWF. Also, before I go, if you have a product or a business or anything you want to advertise, you can advertise here on 360 Wrestling Podcast, either Wrestling Fanatic or GMWF. Well, both probably, but I'll do a read for you. I'll try to do a good job and not kind of stutter and flub up my words like I do sometimes. I'll try to do a great job for you, I promise. Email me 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. Maybe we could work something out and I can advertise your product or your business right here on 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Once again, email me 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. So everyone, thank you once again. It is appreciated. I will talk to everyone tomorrow morning, GMWF. But until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.